Tales and Nature Trails, Recreation in Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island, is pleased to welcome you to another fun-filled episode. Enjoy the show.
Ahoy there, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, Recreation in Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island. My name is Will Morrissey, and I'm your host for the show. My wife, Bridget, is a realtor who races up and down the coast from Old Lyme to Charlestown. She's zigzagging from Mystic to Mashantucket to Uncasville. She knows all the back roads around here, and so she and I wrote a book, so telling you all about all the different attractions in the area. There's so many people moving into the area, whether they're building submarines or they're the brave souls driving the submarines, students at Mitchell College, Connecticut College, Avery Point, UConn at Avery Point, or even the cadets at the Coast Guard Academy. And then there's so many people visiting the area too. Last year, Mystic was recognized as one of the top 4 travel destinations in all the United States. So there's a lot of people coming into the area that just don't know everything that's available. And today, we've got Nakai Clearwater North up here from Mashantucket Pequot Museum. Welcome, Nakai.
Thank you guys for having me.
No, that's good. We're so pleased that you're here. I mean, there's so many attractions in the area that people coming here don't know about, and the Pequot Museum is quite an attraction. And I've been there a couple times, and it's a lot of fun to go through. I've been there for Chamber of Commerce events. I've been there to go through the museum. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with it?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Mashantucket Pequot Tribe and Narragansett Nation. So I grew up in Mashantucket my whole life, and the museum has been there since I was 4 years old, and it's been a place and a resource for the community and a place that I spent a lot of time in and I grew to love. I've always been involved in our people's histories and our cultures and our traditional lifeways. So it was a place that just kind of beckoned and called to me, and I wanted to be there and looked at it as a job for the future. And I've been there now for over 10 years, started in the education department, and now I serve as the head of our public programs and outreach department, and I get to help interact with our school groups and all our patrons who come and visit the museum and develop programming for it. It's really an amazing place. It's the largest Native American museum in the world.
Well, that's quite a background. You know your way around the museum, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Why don't we run the video that we have Michael and Bridget about the exhibits that are at the museum.
Awesome. So some really awesome exhibits that we kick off with is our welcome gallery for people to get an understanding of who the community is today. A lot of people often, when they think of indigenous people or native peoples, they always associate us with being in the past, but we're a present people. We have a modern life. We drive regular cars and live in houses, so it's really cool to show that. Another really cool one is our caribou hunt exhibit. And this exhibit here shows paleo life. Another amazing thing about Mashantucket, where it's the oldest continuously occupied reservation in North America. And we have artifacts that we found here that date back 14,000 plus years. When the last glacier was here, the last ice age was in this area. And we had a glacier here called the Wisconsin Glacier, which covered a large portion of this land and is also responsible for forming a lot of the land that we live on today with glacial eradicators and big rocks placed in funny places that you'll see if you hike our trails throughout the state. And we also cover a lot of beautiful things such as creation stories from all different tribal nations. There's 576 federally recognized tribes in North America, and there's 5 recognized tribes in Connecticut alone. So a lot of history that's vast and beautiful. With this last ice age, we had megafauna. We had larger animals that lived here. So there's the mastodon here that we have represented. Closest relative today is the Asian elephant, and this is a woolly mammoth's little cousin. They get around 10 feet tall and need to consume close to 400 pounds of food a day to sustain themselves. And we have one represented in the museum. A beautiful thing is the transition of our lifeways as the climate starts to warm up and our people adjust to this and different resources come around, we're able to thrive. So in the last ice age time period, there are estimations of population being anywhere from 250 to 500 people. So as this climate changes and we get up to the Pequot Village time period, the 1500s, There's estimations of 12 to 15,000 Pequot people, over 26 known villages throughout the entire state of Connecticut into New York as well. So a really diverse life, and we've really figured out how to live off the land at this time, and interdependence relationships are huge. Things start to change and interactions appear with Europeans, the Dutch and the English first coming here for trade and the English for a new life. And that relationship had positives and negatives, but ultimately led to a war, the Pequot War, which is huge in not just our history, but American history, and really the foundation of Connecticut. Connecticut got its chartership from the King of England because of right by conquest, the Pequot War. So Connecticut is a state today, is not Massachusetts today because of the Pequot War. And then afterwards, the transitional period, like I mentioned, the reservation, all federally recognized communities and state recognized communities have a land base, which is a reserve or a reservation. We have a really cool exhibit that talks about that transitional time period from going from a traditional style of life to working up into a more modern style of life, a European-centric style of life where it's monetary. We have to pay taxes. We have to build A-frame style homes. An outdoor space where we do traditional cooking and different demonstrations outside. We have a garden in this space that we plant corn, beans, and squash, but we also have fruit trees and things that were introduced by the Europeans to show that transition as well. And then we end with a tribal portrait gallery, which is a really cool section that shows the diversity of my community. So one thing I really love about Mashantucket is we don't have a blood quantum. We do our ancestry by lineal descent. So we don't restrict who you fall in love with and have a family with, and that doesn't make you any less Pequot. And then we're in such a beautiful location. Mashantucket is my favorite place in the world, and the beautiful forest and the swamp that's around us that once had a glacier over top and now has a massive aquifer that provides fresh, clean water for our community. And a beautiful land that we get to walk and travel through. So there's trails, numerous trails and hiking opportunities throughout Mashantucket. One prime one is Lantern Hill, where you get to go to the top and you get a really good view, and on these good, warm, clear summer days you can see to the ocean. So they would look out for our people pretty commonly. And then of course the stones on top that held value. And this is a really cool opportunity. The museum is such a great resource, not only for the tribal community, for the greater community, and we're constantly looking to build relationships and be able to impact different communities and allow the opportunity. Once we get people in the building, it's always an amazing opportunity to be able to sit down, talk with them, and share who we are, because that's what we've done for thousands of years. All interactions with people starts with us and our willingness to share our culture.
Wow, that's a great story there, Nakai. You know what I noticed a lot when you were talking about the museum? You've got a lot inside the museum, but the windows.
Yeah.
You've got a window looking out at all the trees, and you were talking about the forest and everything. I mean, that must have been a special plan put together when you were putting the museum together. Absolutely.
Mashantucket means much wooded land, or place of many trees. Traditionally, Mashantucket is a place where we'd spend time in the winter months. And in the summertime, we'd be down by the coast. So it's a staple place where we've been for a long period of time.
You know, I mean, just putting that museum together and having that glass wall going around the whole thing, I mean, that's really special. I mean, the people putting it together really did a really good job.
The vision for the museum was great. It's a fantastic establishment that is a great resource for anyone who can come in and has an interest. And highlighting the land is ever so important because of our relationship with the land. We rely on our relationship with the land. One day we're all going to be a part of that land. So it's important. The stewardship of the land is important to us. Not only as tribal people, but as all people, being able to take care of home.
Now, you showed us a lot of different exhibits.
Yeah.
What are the favorite exhibits? I imagine little kids love the woolly mammoth there.
Yeah. The young ones definitely love going through. We have an escalator that goes down through a glacier and gets into that section where we have our mastodon, we have a giant beaver, caribou, some dire wolves. And then the best one that everyone gives rave reviews about is our village exhibit, which is a fully immersive space that you can walk through a 1500s summer community and just see everyday life. And that's really all that we're trying to show. There's no special event going on there. It's just another day in the life.
Yeah, if you go to the museum, you're going to be really surprised at how lifelike all these exhibits are. You know, I mean, you think the people are real and they're going to start moving, you know, so. But other than the exhibits themselves, you also do a lot of events, and we've got a video about the different events that you can see at the Mashantucket Pequot Museum. If we could run that, it'd be great.
And that is based off of our 13-moon calendar, traditional calendar, and it goes off of our spring programming. We're getting ready to roll into our Nippon, our summer programming. But we have the farmers market coming up this Saturday. We have talking circle events. It's gonna roll. Yep, so Strawberry Moon Farmers Market this week and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're gonna have our traditional singers there. We're gonna have traditional games, a lot of different vendors. It's a really cool opportunity for the family to come out. It's outdoors this year, so that'll be nice. The weather has been so beautiful lately. Coming up after that, we have our We Too Book Club with our executive director, Joshua Carter. And this gives guests an intimate opportunity to talk about a lot of amazing books, most from indigenous authors, and spend time with our executive director and really digest these and go over them in detail. Education Powwow is one of our favorite events of the year, and it is an immersive experience. I tell people it's a powwow with captions. So if you've never been to a powwow before, which all powwows are open to the public, it gives you a really good breakdown on protocols and what you're actually witnessing, because during a regular powwow, they're not going to break it down in too much detail. Then we have our Three Sisters Community Fundraiser on August 17th. And this is to support educational initiatives, adding more technology into the space, making it more accessible, and looking to serve the greater public better. We want to be as efficient as possible with that. And then our Honoring the Veterans Powwow in November, and this is always a fantastic event. It's open to all veterans, so all veterans are able to come, and they're free with admission with a +1. We have a little bruncheon for them, and then we have a whole powwow to celebrate their service and include them within the programming. And then this is something that I take a lot of pride in, group programs. So my role, I get to develop the programs that the school groups, the universities, everyone who visits, if they book a program, get to digest something that I got to help create, which is something that's really important to me. And I have an amazing team, and we get to really try to bring new, fresh programming, but be able to tell histories that are hidden, they seem almost, and be able to bring them to light and share that with the general public it's amazing.
Well, the people in Connecticut and the visitors to Connecticut are really lucky that they have such a museum to go to and to talk about history that you just don't know about. You don't read about it in the history books. And you know, it seems as though the Mashantucket Pequots are a leader of sorts of different tribes. I know when you have the powwow, you have quite a few visitors come in, don't you?
Yeah, so our powwows give us an opportunity to invite communities from all over, and that's the idea of a powwow. There's powwows all throughout the year, every weekend throughout the year, all over the country. Summertime here, August is the hot spot time for powwows here in the Northeast, specifically Connecticut and Rhode Island. And it really kicks off and it allows us to showcase who we are. Because once you get kind of Hollywood and mainstream, they kind of focus a lot on Western communities, and they kind of push away from Eastern communities who have been here for a long, long time. So it gives us an opportunity to show that we're still here. We're still singing our songs, we're doing our dances, we're eating our traditional foods and showcasing our crafts. And this is something that we've done for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it gives us an opportunity to see family that we haven't seen. They're almost like family reunions.
Well, the tribe itself is a leader in the Indian community. I know that because one of my roommates in college, his father was the chief of the Potawatomi Indians in the Michigan-Indiana border, where Notre Dame is located.
Yep.
And he told me a lot of stories, but he mentioned, I talked to him last October, and he was telling me about Mashantucket Pequot leading the way to make sure that reservations are honored. And you know that he had nothing but good things to say about the Mashantucket Pequot tribe.
That's awesome. Yeah, reservation systems originate in Connecticut. They start in Connecticut. Now they're all throughout North America. And we have an opportunity with the museum to be a platform for other communities. We're able to share our story, but also give a platform for other communities who don't have a giant building that is 308,000 square feet to be able to share that at that level. And we've also been really fortunate. We had a lot of struggles throughout our history. We've had a lot of hardships, but we're really fortunate. We were able to find success in gaming, which allowed us to invest within our community and build a facility like the museum that, you know, if you lose the war, you don't often get to tell your side of the story. Other people get to write your histories for you, and this gave us an opportunity to uplift our voices and our stories, but also take the time and the due diligence to not only have it be from our perspectives, but share and take into account everybody's perspectives to tell a full story.
Well, we've been going over quite a bit. You know, we've got a quick review video that we can do and just hit on these fine points again. If we can run that again, Michael. Now, the museum you were talking about, I mean, that's unbelievable, the museum by itself, to get in there and see, but you've got all these different programs that you've got.
Yeah, we have a lot of different group programs. We have a seasonal program structure style for groups who book. So every season there'll be different programming, which is awesome. And then our museum store, which has tons of work from local artisans, and then we're constantly putting new merch and gear and fun stuff for kids as well, stuffies and all that good stuff. Our events throughout the year are always amazing and always good turnout. Our museum pass programs and our memberships are, we feel, really affordable and accessible for people to be able to come and be able to spend time with us. And sponsorship opportunities, we're always on the lookout to interact and build relationships with other people, and volunteers for sure. It's such a huge building, and it needs the love. And it's an amazing venue. We have so many amazing spaces to be able to host weddings, we host proms, and different corporate events. It's an amazing space to come create memories in.
Well, that's quite a bit. Do you get a lot of visitors to the museum store?
We get a good amount of visitors to the museum store for sure, and we have a lot of amazing stuff from local artisans in there now. We're constantly trying to stay fresh and up to date, and keep the store packed with a lot of cool things.
Now, you mentioned that you kind of run the group programs. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the group programs are?
Yeah, so we have an array of programs. Exhibit Highlights is one of our main programs that gets booked, which if you book a group program, you go on Exhibit Highlights, you'll have an educator. One of our educators bring you around the museum and give you an in-depth tour about everything you're looking at. And then we have programs such as corn husk dolls, wampum bracelets, pinch pottery, interactive craft programs, where when kids come in, they can do these programs and then have something to take home with them as well. And these will transition throughout the year. And it's always amazing. We're constantly working on new programs. We have new programs coming out this fall, and they're programs that are for all levels. We have programs that focus on our young ones. We have programs that are based on scholars and universities. So we're constantly trying to create content and educational programs that is accessible to everyone and can fit everyone's kind of interests.
Now, when you have this We Too Book Club, is it a specified niche that I mean, is it about Indians, or is it about a host of different things to talk about?
For the most part, it's tribal authors.
Okay.
And they read a ton of awesome books. They've done Braiding Sweetgrass, which is a really good book, Sacred Instructions. They have gone through some really awesome ones so far. and it's always a good time. We get to sit around, and our executive director's there. We have little treats and snacks, and it's a good time to just really focus in. These books that we've gone through so far have been really amazing.
Now, you also mentioned the Museum Pass program. Now, is that just for the Mashantucket Pequot Museum, or does that include other museums too?
So we do have reciprocals with other institutions. We do a lot of work with the aquarium, the seaport. We're doing some work with the Mystic Museum of Art currently. So there are a lot of institutions that if you come and you have a membership with us, it reciprocates the CT Science Center. So there are quite a few that it crosses over with.
Now, we do a lot with different nonprofit organizations, and your museum being one of them. And a lot of times they're looking for volunteers, they're looking for sponsors and everything. What is the sponsorship program that you have?
So we have a couple different ones, but one that's really important is called Misamuk Nitop, which means giving friend. And that initiative is essentially paying it forward. And it's paying it forward for groups to be able to come in and receive programming who might not have the funds to go on a field trip or be able to afford the bus company. So it makes it accessible to everyone to be able to have an opportunity to learn this history.
Okay, and the volunteers, what do the volunteers do when they arrive at the museum?
Yeah, so we have an extremely small staff comparatively to what it was 25 years ago. So a lot of people in the museum have multiple roles now. We wear a lot of different hats. So there's always something to do. And one thing about that museum being so big is you can get turned around every now and then. So it's always nice when we have volunteers who can come in and help with the guest experience. We have staff, our educators, who will patrol in our visitor service department who spends time down in exhibits, but a lot of times it's often busy, so having more faces to come in and help guide our guests and help set up for different events is always needed.
Now, you mentioned weddings. You know, how many people can you have at a wedding, or is it open to corporate events also?
We do a bunch of corporate events, big corporate events. We have multiple spaces out for rental. Weddings, we have a ton of space. The gathering space alone can fit 1,000 people. But we had NFA prom there last week with 600 kids. So beautiful space. You get all the natural view around you. It's a complete glass room for the most part. And you get to look out at the beautiful forest. It's beautiful scenery that you're surrounded by, and that's a star of the museum for sure.
Now, a lot of times when you're looking at a museum, you're thinking an old building. You know, I mean, you go into a museum and you're just predisposed to thinking it's an old place. You go to the Mashantucket Pequot Museum and you're going to be amazed. You know, I mean, those glass walls looking out at the forest is just unbelievable. I mean, it's a fun place to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone who had a hand in designing the building really did an amazing job. The building is going to be 26 years old this year, and you wouldn't be able to tell. We are doing everything we can to keep it fresh. We did a lot of renovations over our closure this winter to redo the floor in the gathering space. We did some work on our tribal seal in the center of the gathering space. We're looking into incorporating more projections and things throughout exhibits. So there's a lot of work going into it, but the general bones of the museum is timeless.
Now, two of the events that you mentioned were powwows.
Yeah.
One during the summer and the one in November for the veterans. What is the biggest event that you have? Is it a powwow?
Yeah, the powwows, educational and veterans powwow are our biggest events, I'd say, attendance-wise. And it does a really good job at drawing the wider community, our sister tribes, and people from all over the Northeast to come in and attend. And it's always a good time. The tribe has Skimitzen at the end of August too, so we have 3 powwows in Mashantucket throughout
What's your
the year. Skimitzen is always my favorite. At the museum, I really love Veterans Powwow. Veterans Powwow is always a good time because that's when the powwow trail here in the Northeast kind of simmers down and slows down. So that gives us a time to see family again. It's right before, Thanksgiving and everything. So it's a good time to gather, and it's always fun to show support for our veterans.
Yeah, I hear about it on the radio quite a bit, and Gil Simmons talks about it, the weatherman on Channel 8 in New Haven. He's a veteran, and he really raves about it, the good time that he has there.
It is always a good time.
So, well, that's pretty cool. Anything special that you want to tell people about the museum? I mean, the half hour is almost gone.
Yeah, absolutely. The museum gets a notion of being a hidden gem in the state, and it's a compliment, but it's also something that we want to get rid of that notion. We don't want to be hidden. We just want to be a gem for everyone to see. So we are going to be looking for feedback from individuals of programming that we can provide that the public wants to see. We really want to be transparent. We want to be open and be able to provide the education that people need and want. So we're trying to be more inclusive in people's needs. So we are always looking for the opportunity to collaborate and how we can broaden and better serve the community. So anyone who wants to come to the museum, please make the trip. We'll make sure it's worth your while. It's something that our people have done for a long, long time, is share who we are and why we do what we do, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in. So our doors are always open.
Well, let me tell you something. If you go to the museum, the hidden gem that he just mentioned, this guy is not going to be a hidden gem. He's 6 feet 6 inches tall. He towers above everybody. So if you have any questions, you can find Nakai and ask him.
That's right.
No, well, thank you so much for coming. I mean, we're really pleased. It's such a treasure, like you say. And it's in the woods, and we got to let people know there's more to this area than the shoreline.
Absolutely.
And Mashantucket Pequot Museum is one of those gems. Thank you for being here, and I just want to let people know that we've got SailFest coming up, and Susan from the Custom House is going to be our next guest. She's going to tell us all about the maritime history of New London and what's coming up with SailFest, and then we've got the Granite Theater in Westerly after that. So we're really pleased that you were able to tune in, find out a little bit about what's going on in the area, nautical tales, nature trails, recreation in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you the next time. Bridget, take us out.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels at Mystic 2 Westerly and at SECTV1. Please join our group on Facebook and like my Facebook page. Let me explain Mystic 2 Westerly to you. Mystic is actually part Groton and part Stonington. Stonington Borough and Pawcatuck are also part of Stonington. 2 towns, 2 states make one community. Watch Hill and Mashantucket Beach are part of Westerly. Connecticut Route 2 starts in Pawcatuck, goes through North Stonington, into Ledyard, and Preston, to Norwich. It goes across the river into Uncasville, and more of New London County on its way to Hartford. New London County is also home to Waterford, East Lyme, Niantic, and Old Lyme. Basically, we enjoy living in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. Thank you for watching Nautical Tales and Nature Trails. We hope you enjoyed it.